it pains me to see when people have a mission to fulfill and they're not able to fulfill it because of health concerns. And we are definitely in a health crisis right now, throughout the world. There's an individual who's helped our family immensely, and his name is Dr. Jerry Duggar. He is a practicing chiropractor. His practice is in Bountiful, Utah, but he's so much more than a bone cracker. Yeah, he can help you if you've had an injury and things, but he is the most holistic minded individual that, from a health standpoint, that I've ever met. When I went to him, I met him I saw him, I think 3 different times before I actually approached him. And, you kind of know how it is. There's certain people that you're just attracted to. And finally, I'm like, okay, I got to go talk to this guy. My wife was dealing with what we thought was celiac disease. I was recovering from Lyme's disease. I was like, he's got some things that can help me, and I need to talk to him. And so I did, and we set an appointment. We started working together, and he has a holistic view of how to be able to incorporate not only physical healing, but mental and emotional healing. And in turn, it's a way that heals your relationship. And I think it can affect your business. I know it can affect your business. So it is an honor to have Dr. Duggar here with us today. Dr. Duggar, hopefully you're there. Let's get you up on camera. We can hear you. I was wondering if you bought a cowboy hat for this experience.
Oh, dang it. Well, I knew I missed out on something.
Man, we got to get you one. I thought the team was going to get that for you.
No, I don't want one of those cowboy hats that I see at the store. I want one like you have, with the flat thing. Okay. I'm so out of the loop. I don't even know what the difference in how if there's a different name, but I see the ones you wear and they're cool.
Yeah, they keep the sun off better.
But I love it.
Yeah, well, we're pretty excited about having you here as a speaker today. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I've got your bio, but he's a friend that I trust. He's someone that I lean on. I ask questions. I'm like, hey, this has come up with family's health. What do we need to do? And he's kind of tunes us up, and we probably don't see him as often as we could, because we're kind of like everybody else. You think things are good until your car breaks down, and maybe we won't do the preventative maintenance that we should. But that's what we're going to talk about, especially in light of, like, if we're going to have a legacy, health is such a key part of that, right? I don't want your health to be a reason that you can't live out the legacy and the mission that God's given you to fulfill. And so that's kind of what, to set the stage, Dr. Duggar. Let's learn some principles here.
Let's rock and roll. I like it. All right, let me figure out if I can share my screen. I'll do that.
Yep, we can see.
Give me a thumbs up. You can see some slides here.
Yep, we got it.
So first of all, Jared, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an honor. I want to just tell everybody who's an attendee how much I appreciate what you guys do. I know there's a big disconnect from the average, person walking down the street between, the ranch and farm where their food is produced to their plate, and they don't think about it at all. They're just buying something off the shelf and going about their day. But what you guys do is not lost on me. It's very important to me. Jared talked a little bit about this idea of a legacy and this idea of sustainability. I want to spin this a little bit and talk about how we build a sustainable wellness plan in our life. And I think there's a lot of correlations between the way regenerative agriculture views this, food production to the way we should be approaching our health. So I'm not going to tease out every single one of these connections, but hopefully as I'm speaking, your mind can think about, hey, this is exactly what we're trying to do with our land. This is exactly how we're trying to raise our cattle. This is how, like, the principles should be evident as we go through this today. So I kind of titled my presentation, how to create a vibrant biological terrain so you can live your best life. You guys are thinking about the terrain of your land. You're thinking about healthy livestock and all of this. And I think we can kind of apply these principles to our own health. So why I'm here, what we put into our mouths and what comes out of our mouths and what lives in our mouths directly impacts the quality and longevity of our lives. Let me break that down a little bit. Of course, what I mean by what we put into our mouth has to do with the quality of food that we eat and what we drink. What comes out of our mouth has to do with our heart and our desire to speak truth and kindness and change the lives of the people that are around us. And maybe the third piece is deeper than we want to go today, but what lives in our mouths directly impacts the quality of our health as well, because we're an we're an entire ecosystem. Our microbiome in our mouth, in our gut, this has a profound impact on our overall health. And so I just love, this is a phrase that one of my colleagues shared, and I just thought this would be a good opening slide, because we're going to talk a lot about what we put into our mouths, what comes out of our mouths, and how that impacts our health. Now, there's another reason I'm here, and that's because this is really personal to me. This is a picture of me and my mom and dad. Aren't I just a cute little guy? I think I was probably 12 or 13 there. But I had a really interesting childhood. I kind of lived in an interesting social science experiment, if you will. My mother was very health conscious. She paid attention to what she ate. She tried to, be fit, and she did the best she could. She was raising 8 children, so I don't think she was always as healthy as she wanted to be, but she tried. There was some effort and some focus. My dad, on the other hand, really was just so stressed out of trying to put food on the table and just trying to keep things together, that he didn't pay any attention to his health. He just did whatever he wanted to do, and consequently he started to develop degenerative chronic conditions quite early on in his life. He had his first heart attack in his 50s. He developed diabetes. He had chronic gut GI issues, eventually diagnosed with prostate cancer, had to have that dealt with, was depressed, congestive heart failure, emphysema, and all along he was quite overweight. And so I was watching this every single day of my life. I was watching the impact of behaviors and choices that both my parents were making. They were very, very different. I remember sometimes my mom would make 2 meals at dinner, one that was good for you and the one that my dad would eat. So you don't have to raise your hand and call yourself out on that, but you might be kind of like that. And you might be just popping things in the microwave that you bought off of, a frozen food section or what have you. So it was just kind of an oblivious to the impact of his choices. But here's the interesting thing. My dad would go to the doctor every year and be put on more and more medications. And, he honestly, one time I saw him take like a handful, like 15 different pills, and put like all of them in his mouth at the same time and swallow them with his Coke, because he would drink like a 6-pack of Coke a day. So, all right, this is his mentality. These pills are going to solve my problem. And if my doctor was just a little better, he could make me well. Okay. So, I think we're all smart enough to know that that's not the right way to go about it. But honestly, in that period, his doctors weren't having this discussion with him at all. They were just saying, all right, Leonard, now you've got this, now you've got high blood pressure. Okay, now you've got high cholesterol. Now you've got diabetes, and just continued to treat him with drugs. So my father passed away when I was in my last year of chiropractic school. And on the airplane ride home, I remember distinctly thinking that I didn't want to be that sort of doctor who wasn't going to be willing to have a difficult conversation with his patient, who wasn't going to be willing to tell them in a loving way when they're killing themselves slowly with their fork and knife. And so as Jared said, I'm a chiropractor, but 90% of my work is, well, maybe not 90, but a lot of my work is on functional medicine, integrative medicine, and lifestyle medicine to help people actually take control of their health. So I don't know if you guys know this, but as of 2014, the life expectancy in the United States has continued to decline, and it's actually now crossed the threshold where our life expectancy of the life expectancy of youth right now is shorter than their parents. And for decades, it continued, you know, it was growing. We were living longer and longer and longer. And as of 2014, we kind of went over that cliff. And now it's projected we're going to live shorter than our parents did. And opioids and suicide, and, you know, they have an impact on this, but nothing comes close to the impact of increased chronic disease and obesity. So this is a interesting trend line from the G7. These are, you know, the biggest nations. I guess we're missing Russia and China here, but UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the US. And over on the bottom left corner, you see 1950. And then at the far right side, we see 2020. And just look at the dark blue. That's the US. In 1950, we weren't number one. We were 13 in overall life expectancy. But just look at the trend line. Everybody else has pretty much held. They've dropped a bit within the last decade. But the US has dropped precipitously. We're 53rd now among all industrial nations in the world in overall life expectancy. Now, they don't give away medals in the Olympics for 53rd place. So this is a problem. And so it's not only that we aren't healthy. To add insult to injury, we spend 3 times the average of other developed countries on what we call healthcare. It's not healthcare at all. It's disease management care. And so this scenario is untenable. It's not sustainable. If we're talking about sustaining, you can't sustain what we're doing. In fact, it's likely it will bankrupt our country if we continue down this path. Now, just for an interesting experiment, I looked at the most profitable industries in the US. Boy, I sure wish regenerative agriculture was on the top 10, but it's not yet. But here, look at this. The number 1 profitable industry is commercial banking. Hospitals are number 2. But just look at how many other health-related industries are on this top 10 list. Number 4, we have health and medical insurance. Number 7, we have specialist doctors. Number 8, we have primary care doctors. Number 9, we have pharmaceuticals. So if we add all quote unquote health-related things, $293 billion in profit, by far 2 times banking. So there's a lot of money to be made in maintaining the status quo. The status quo is create degenerative disease, manage it for as long as possible with pharmaceutical drugs and surgery. And that is just unfortunate. And, you know, I've thrown a little comic here, but this guy's sitting at his doctor's office and he's, how much longer do I have before I have to change my health to a healthy lifestyle? We're all waiting for that day when we actually have to change. And I'm telling you, I love what Dave just said earlier. It's time to change now. Let's not wait, because there's a big, long line of people wanting to do pills and surgery and very few people willing to make some lifestyle changes. But you can't just change your diet. If you want to transform your health, you don't just change your diet. You have to change your entire paradigm. Your paradigm is your ultimate decision engine. So let's compare and contrast a couple paradigms. The current conventional paradigm that most of us grew up in and most of us operate in versus a functional wellness paradigm. In the conventional model, we're viewed as if our bodies are machines that break down, and when you go to the doctor, something's broken. And in the functional wellness model, we think our bodies are incredibly intelligent. In fact, they don't ever make mistakes. They always are programmed for health. And if they're not well, there's a reason for it, and there's a cause for it. So the approach in medicine is to manage our symptoms with pharmaceuticals, with the latest drug. And in the functional model, we want to address causes with timeless principles. In the functional model, we have meaningful communication. We don't have 5-minute, 10-minute office visits. We have 30 to 60-minute consultations where we can actually understand the entire holistic approach that's going on in that person's life. Hopefully, we can focus on creating health instead of reacting to illness. And that's a very big distinction. It sounds kind of just like semantics, but a focus on creating health creates different behaviors than trying to avoid illness. It's not even about preventing heart disease. Creating health is different than preventing illness. I always say the side effect of a real health approach is a new wardrobe, not new symptoms. Okay, so and the idea is that we want a two-way partnership. We want a coach-client relationship just as much as we want a doctor-patient relationship. Now, that's one thing my father never did. He showed up to his doctor's office. He told the doctor his symptoms. The doctor gave him a pill, and that transaction was over. But there was no appreciation for everything that happened in between those visits. And of course, the end goal is not even just living longer. It's about living healthier. There's an idea of something called your health span, how many years you live with great health. And unfortunately, most of the time in America, it's a very steady, slow drop-off of health over decades. We start seeing people, losing organs, getting gallbladders removed, having hysterectomies, all of this, in their late 20s and early 30s now. And so there's this gradual decrease over decades where we end up, one of my favorite book titles I've ever read was "We Live Too Short and Die Too Long." Okay, we're really good at dying really, really, really slowly in America. Okay, but what we really want is a sharp drop off. We want great, vibrant health, hardly any symptoms, and the last few years, boom, we kind of make a steep turn and we go. No one's getting out of here alive, but we want to make sure that we have our health as long as possible, right? So these paradigm shifts will dramatically change your behavior. They'll change how you think about where you allocate your resources as a family. They'll make you think about your morning routine and your evening routine, and like everything shifts if you can shift how you think about your health. I love this. I use this graphic often. It's a great metaphor, but today it's more than a metaphor. Like, you guys are thinking about the soil. You're thinking about the impact that cattle grazing and rotation of crops. I mean, this is all about soil, because what's going on in the soil determines what's happening above the soil. And all of the diseases that we are hearing about and we're tracking, these are all fruits. These are all outgrowths or products of what's happening down in the roots and in the soil, in the environment. So we want to focus on perceived stress, our sedentary lifestyle. We want to think about inflammation and nutrient deficiencies and toxic relationships and traumatic exposures we've had. And all of these set the tone, these set the environment for either building health or building disease. Whether we have chronic fatigue or thyroid imbalance or autoimmunity or obesity, there are things that will determine kind of which path we go, but they all are underpinned, they're undergirded by an overall lifestyle and environmental impact. So I want to just share some interesting stuff. I kind of like numbers. I'm a little geeky and nerdy that way. So this post-pandemic health, lots of things shifted during the pandemic. Well, 95% of Americans planned on losing weight in the next 5 years. 62% know they need to lose even more, more than 20 pounds. I love this. 72% said it was a high priority this year. So that means there were like almost 20% of people who said, I need to lose weight, but I'm not doing it this year. I'm going to do it some other time. So what's the likelihood they're going to succeed? Not low, not very high. 71% of those people who wanted to make a change said it was going to be difficult because they didn't have willpower, they couldn't keep motivated, they didn't know what to do, and they were worried about being hungry. In other words, they didn't have a plan, they didn't know. They obviously tried before and it wasn't successful, and these are the things that got in the way. So they want to do something, but they don't have the skills, they don't have the plan, and they don't have the knowledge. Now, I want you to know that if you're dealing with poor health, if you've got chronic symptoms, if you know you'd like to make some changes, it's not because you are weak. It's not because you have no willpower. There's a bigger stuff going on. And I'm going to use this going to zip through some screens really quickly and show you something that I hope is a little bit shocking. I wanted this to be visual because it's an alarming thing. These are obesity trends among US adults. This is from the CDC. We're going to start in 2011. Now, over here you can see the key here. We're going from 20% of the population being obese in the green, all the way up. Eventually, we're going to hit 50. Okay, so just look at this. This is where we're starting in 2011. Here's 2012, 2013, 2014. There's 16, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. 2022 is the latest data that I could get. So are you going to tell me that our entire country is just continuing to get more and more and more obese, and it's because like we have no willpower? No, what's happening is the entire environment around us is changing, and most of us are living lives of somewhat convenience, and that's what is driving this. It has so much to do with food and our sedentary lifestyle and our stress level and the quality of our air. All of these things, I mean, I could make a longer list than that. But it's this environmental impact of everything that's going on around us that is not balanced. It's not what's the word I want to say? It's not in line with our biology. We're continually going farther and farther and farther away from natural biological laws. And the impact is tremendous. It's undeniable. Now, I want to make this even just a little bit worse before we make it better, okay? Because the truth of the matter is that many people have normal weight, but they still have the exact same metabolic processes going on as somebody who's obese. And it's not a very nice term, but it's kind of one that's floated around. It's called skinny fat. So there was a study that was done very recently, where they actually measured the body composition. If you don't know what that means, that's the percentage of lean muscle mass and bone versus fat and water. So they measure this, and you know, when you hear somebody say their percentage of body fat, that they're talking about this composition. The most accurate way to measure that is with a computerized X-ray machine called a DEXA or DXA. So they took 3,000 participants age 20 to 95. So a nice good cross section, about 50% men, 50% women, and they measured what percentage of the people who were normal weight, who fell within kind of the normal range of what they call healthy BMI or healthy weight, and they measured how many of those people had a good body composition. You know what they found? Of the 967 people who had a normal BMI, normal body mass index, 26% of the men and 38% of the women were obese. So I just showed you that how, you know, the overall percentage of obesity, and now I'm going to tell you, add another 38%. When you start talking about the drivers of metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, these are all driven by a lifestyle that creates these diseases. So here's an interesting graph. As you see BMI levels, that's the overall body mass index. First of all, when we look at a graph like this, if there's a straight line from the bottom left corner to the top right corner, we call that a perfect correlation. As one goes up, the others go up. Now, it's very rare that anything in the world is perfectly correlated, okay? Especially a complex disease. But I just want you to watch these graphs and look how they fall along this line. Type 2 diabetes, of course, hypertension, hysterectomies, back pain, even something as ubiquitous as fatigue falls right along this line. So I don't want you to think that we just have to lose weight, because it's not about weight loss, it's about gaining health. We can't only be focused on weight loss. We have to create wellness. Because you might look at that scale. If you do it the wrong way, you might look at that scale and think you're doing great, but your body composition is not healthy. Okay? So let me ask you this question. If you're not in control of every cell, tissue, organ, and system in your body, who the heck is? You are the car, the driver, and the mechanic. Okay? So as much as you might want to be in denial and say, I don't want to be in control of all this because I don't know how the dang thing works, I'm telling you, when it comes right down to it, we all get to choose. And we might need some education, we might need some coaching, we might need some help, but it still comes down to the choices we make. And we can control a lot. We can't control everything, but we can control a lot. We've got a genetic code that hasn't changed for tens of thousands, 100,000 years, right? But those genetics are built around we've kind of evolved in a certain environment. One of the things that we've evolved with is periodic feast and periodic famine. And so we have the capacity, our body has the capacity to absorb a lot of nutrients and store them, because it kind of knows that at some point food might not be available. So we have this ability to gain weight, but we don't really have any mechanisms to lose weight. Like we have to kind of work at that. It's not hard at all to gain weight, okay? But it's hard to lose weight because of the way our ancestors lived. And so we have to know that. Right now, we live in an environment where food is everywhere. In fact, I'll challenge you, just think real quick. How many seconds would it take for you to get from where you are right now to some food? And I'm saying seconds because it's for 90% of people on here, it's not even a minute. You know, I mean, I've got a snack in my drawer. Like we've got food everywhere. So that's great. Gosh, I mean, I don't want to starve, but when it's so abundant and it's so convenient, we tend to use food as one of our favorite coping mechanisms and our favorite drugs. And we will hijack our evolutionary ancestry and the biology that we've kind of come with, and it gets us in trouble. So that's one little piece of this problem. We have these evolutionary genetics that make it difficult for us to lose weight once we've gained it. We also have a brain that is designed to find pleasure and reward. And this is a trap. If we eat just natural food, there's a amazing taste, and it satisfies us. We think, oh, this is just delicious. But along came modern food science, and they figured out how to basically overstimulate our neurons in our taste buds and in our brain, so that they could enhance the stimulus to our brain with our food. So what happens is now we get this big boost, this big rise in pleasure when we eat modern, commodity foods. Think about I think it's Lay's potato chips or Doritos or something like that says, I bet you can't eat just one. Well, you can't. Why? Because it's scientifically engineered for you not to eat one. Okay, it's hyper palatable and it drives pleasure reward in our brain. So much so that when we stop eating that and we go back to regular food, there's like this downer effect. We kind of get this, like, this doesn't taste good. Why is this so bland? So this is the trap, because most people try that and then they go, oh my gosh, this doesn't taste good. Hey, I need to add some more sugar. I need to add some more salt. I need to add some more flavoring. and they're right back up into this reward cycle in their brain. Now, what's cool is that the brain is very plastic. It can adapt, it can change. And if you can ride out the momentary, a few days, maybe a week or two of food not tasting as good, your nervous system will rewire. And food will start tasting good again. Normal whole food will start tasting again. But most people, like I said, they just get stuck in this loop where they just need more and more hyper-palatable foods. And these are the foods that are filled with chemicals that we don't need. They're the foods filled with industrial seed oils. They're the foods that are making us obese and inflamed. So corporate interests and food scientists are packing our grocery store shelves with frankenfoods, man-made chemical concoctions that are being passed off as food. And this is the problem. We've got competition for shelf space and competition for corporate dollars, and it's basically driving. It is one of the main engines driving the chronic illness tidal wave that we're all getting crushed by. And I want you to understand, I think people can get a little bit too far off of the extreme and think there's this massive conspiracy. And I'm going to tell you, I never attribute malice or stupidity. Never attribute to malice or stupidity that which can be explained by moderately rational individuals following incentives in a complex system of interactions. Okay, there's a lot of big words there, but what that means is there's perverse incentives. As soon as you put perverse incentives into play, then you can't control the outcomes. And I'd say, as much as I don't know all the details of this, my outsider view on ranching, this is the exact same thing. If you can't learn to be profitable running a regenerative ranch, then you've got an incentive to run a commercial, farming agriculture business, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. Nod your head, Jared, if I'm right here. So it's not. This doesn't have to do with evil people. It doesn't have to do with conspiracies. It doesn't have to do with malice or ill intent. It's just a perverse system. So we can change this, but we have to work from inside of the system, and we got to get back to real principles. And I think that that's why I'm so excited about what you guys are doing this weekend, Jared, is all of the pieces, the money side, the business side, the health side. Like you're trying to address all of the parts that will make this work for someone. Because there really is a cycle of dis-ease. And you could start anywhere you want in here. But I love, Dave, I think it was Dave, talked about the fact that as soon as he retired, he lost 20 pounds, right? Because he got rid of stress, got rid of some of his stress. Well, absolutely. Like, if we don't know how to unplug from the stressful environment that we're in, quiet ourselves, go into our mind and body with prayer and meditation, or even something as woo-woo as like breath work, learning how to use your breath to control your nervous system. Like, if you don't know how to do that, that's a skill. That's a ancient piece of wisdom that we've all lost. And we've got to relearn how to do this now in the modern age. If you don't know that staring at your computer screen at 9 o'clock at night while you're trying to get ready for bed, if you don't know that that's creating stress on your body, well, you need to now learn that so that you can make a different choice. So we know we have stress issues. Our food and our pesticides and herbicides in our environment, antibiotics and medications, these all create problems with our gut and the microbiome, or the microbes that live inside of our gut. We know now that there are specific strains of microbes in our gut that will determine whether you gain weight or whether you lose weight. I mean, does that blow you away? Isn't that amazing? Like, the presence or absence of Akkermansia muciniphila, okay, in your gut might have a profound impact on whether you're obese or not. So this gut microbiome it's so cool what we're learning, how it impacts us. But when we're stressed and eating terrible food and not getting enough sleep, and the microbiome suffers. When we have a dysfunctional microbiome, our body becomes inflamed. Inflammation feels like my joints hurt and my, I just kind of get stiff and achy, but it also feels like I'm depressed, I have brain fog, and I'm tired. And it also feels like I'm bloated and I've got gas, and I just feel like crap. I call it FLC syndrome, feel like crap syndrome. So inflammation feels different depending on where it's at. When it gets inside of our cells, inside of our cells, we have a little organelle called mitochondria. Mitochondria is what makes your energy. So when the body's inflamed, energy production goes down. And that means you get tapped out, you get home at the end of the day, and you can't think anymore. And so you don't feel good. So you sit down in front of the TV and you can turn your mind off and be entertained. Okay, so mitochondrial damage is happening basically all the time, but we should have the ability to regenerate. I love that. Good word there. Regenerate. We got to regenerate our own mitochondria in ourselves, okay? So that we can actually be vital and strong and healthy. And we get done at the end of the day, and sure, we're tired, but it's a healthy tired. Hormones are huge signaling molecules in our body, and most people are walking around with hormone imbalance. And I mean insulin, thyroid hormone, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, DHEA, some of these things you might never heard of. If these aren't in balance, you're not going to be well. This is the driver of diabetes. This is a driver of thyroid disease. This is the driver of erectile dysfunction and, problems with sexual function in men and women. And this just kind of goes around and around and around. And it's happening not only in your body, it's happening in your brain. This is the same cycle that's causing anxiety to go through the roof in our young people. Depression. I'm a functional mental health specialist as well. And what's going on in the brains of the American people, it's sad. The numbers of people on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications just continues to climb. It's higher and higher and higher every year because we're not addressing the root of the problem. Now, there's a lot of reasons why things fail. I just said one of the main things is that we aren't addressing the root. We're not looking at the ecosystem that the person's living in, and we're not looking at their habits. And most interventions work against the body, not with it. In fact, there's a term, I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but it's called allopathic medicine. Now, allopathic medicine is another way to describe our current medical system. So conventional medicine is allopathic medicine. Now, allo means opposite, and path means path. So allopathic medicine is we're opposing the symptom that the body has. So let's say I have a runny nose. In allopathic medicine, I would take a substance that would make my nose dry up, right? So it's too runny, so I'm going to oppose it allopathically. So I'm going to work against what the body was doing. Now, there's a different type of medicine called homeopathic medicine. I'm sure you've heard of that. Homeo means same. So homeopathic means same path. Back to my example, a homeopathic remedy would be a substance that you could give to someone to make their nose runny. So if they had a runny nose and you give them something to make their nose runny, the idea is that you're going to help the body do what it was already trying to do and then resolve the problem. Now, I say that not because I'm a traditional homeopathic doctor. That's an entirely different way, it's a whole system of healing. But mainly just to explain that there are certain things that we can do to improve our health that are in line with what the body wants. It creates the environment where naturally the body will find balance, as opposed to trying to shut down every symptom that we're feeling. Okay. So for instance, let's say a headache. Many times people have headaches because they're stressed and dehydrated. So a more holistic approach would be to think about those things first. And let's hydrate. Let's make sure we've eaten something, our blood sugar is not collapsed. And let's make sure that we're not under so much stress and tension that our neck and our shoulders are up in our ears and whatever. Any one of those attempts to solve the headache, and maybe we're just tired and we need a half-hour nap. Any one of those things might make the symptom go away, but it did it by virtue of changing the conditions, the environment, as opposed to a Tylenol, which doesn't change anything, but it blocks the sensation of pain. So at times we need allopathic medicine, but that's only to treat things once we've lost track of them with more holistic approaches. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing is, most of our approaches rely on deprivation or willpower instead of just getting in line with biology. And they aren't based on sustainable lifestyle change. So whatever you're trying to do to improve your health, I want you to think about it through the lens of these 4 questions. Is this addressing the root of the problem? Am I trying to work with biology? Am I working with the way my system is supposed to work? Am I trying to just avoid something or take something out, or am I putting something beneficial into the system? And is it sustainable? Is this something I could do over the long haul? Or, maybe I can push it pretty intensively for a little while, but even if I backed off to 90% of my effort, could I maintain that? If you can answer that, if you can kind of think through those things about any health change that you're wanting to make, I'll bet you're going to do better than you would have otherwise. My wife and I came up with a simple way to think about this. We call this the Simple 7 lifestyle. And it has to do with how we think, how we sleep, how we breathe, how we eat, how we move, how we love, and how we play. We wrote a fun little book called The Simple 7 Lifestyle. I don't know if you can see that here, but this is available on our website for like $7 or something. But this just helps people walk through some simple things they can do to change their lifestyle and get a little bit more in line with biology. You can see some of these are kind of on the mental side, how we think and love and recreate and play, the time we take off from stress. And other things are very physical, like how we sleep, how we breathe, how we eat, and how we move. So it's physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, all of those things. But reading a book or listening to me give a lecture today isn't going to move the needle for you, right? Information alone doesn't improve health. The key to change is inspired action and empathetic accountability. So that's where I find people usually get stuck. They don't know exactly what action to take, and they don't have anybody to be accountable with. So I just want to introduce in the last couple of minutes here a couple things for you to consider. I have a very busy practice. I don't have a lot of, I am still taking patients and clients, but I've opened up a few things for this group and for this summit. I have 2 signature coaching programs. One we call the Foundation. It's a monthly wellness membership that's very intensive. It's one-on-one work with me every month. We're running lab tests. We're focusing on energy, gut, hormones, and brain. Basically, over the course of several months, we run through the key systems of the body and create a completely customized and custom-tailored plan for you. Different than your wife, different than your son, okay? It's a very individualized. Think about this like a custom tailor for your suit, okay? Many of my patients do this. It takes 6, 9 months, 12 months of work before we can really crack all of the problems that they're dealing with. But some people can get amazing results in just a matter of a few months. The other thing that I do is a program called the Reset. And I call this the quick and dirty. Okay, this is a 12-week. It is a one-on-one coaching program. but this is really designed to make the big moves that 80 to 90% of the population need to make to drop weight quickly, regain energy quickly, and really reset key pieces of the lifestyle. Most of my clients on the reset will lose between 25 and 35 pounds in 6 to 8 weeks. And then we maintain it for the next 4 weeks so that they know that they can sustain this in the long haul. This is a little bit more of there's a little less customization because we're not doing lab testing. But like I said, the things that we do in the reset are helpful for 80 to 95% of people. So if you don't have a diagnosed chronic degenerative disease, you'll probably do well with this sort of approach. So I just wanted to introduce those two things for you and let you know how you can get a little bit of access to me. The easiest way, I believe that there's some free a page that you can go to get some free gifts, but I put together a quick start guide. It's 9 steps to easily shed 20 pounds. It's a simple downloadable ebook guide. And if you download that and you would like to talk with me, I've opened up my schedule for a few 30-minute health strategy sessions. These are free sessions. We'll jump on Zoom like this, and I'll just kind of hear what you've got going on and let you know whether I think I could even help you or point you in the right direction to somebody who can help you. And there's absolutely no obligation. This is just my gift to you guys for all that you do and the impact you're having on me and on the community. So I want to make those available to you. I'm going to just tell you, if you go through this process, you'll get to a page where you can try to schedule that 30-minute health strategy session. Please be patient. I have a very busy schedule, so you might not see a lot of options. Just if you don't see any options, you can reach out to me personally through my website, and we'll find a time when I can meet with you. But I really would love to honor that as a gift to all of you who are attending on this summit, and really just especially honoring my good friend Jared and his amazing family for all that they've done for me and my family. So that's my gift of my time and my expertise to you guys. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have for my presentation. So I'm going to turn off my screen, and Jared, let's just ask me any questions you've got and we'll go from there.
That is perfect. Dr. Duggar, thank you very much. I hope you guys can understand the value that he is offering here. It's amazing to be able to tap into him. The thing that I felt the most when I talked to Dr. Duggar was that I wasn't just a number. He wasn't thinking about, oh, I need to get him in as a patient because he's going to bring this many dollars into my practice. It was like he really wanted to help. And that was a big difference from other people especially when I went through my journey of trying to figure out that I had Lyme's disease and things, and just kind of felt like a cow being shoved down a chute with about just about that much empathy. So that was really good. So Dr. Duggar, can you talk just a little bit about our environment and how much, as we're transitioning to regenerative agriculture, we're very conscious about limiting the use of herbicides, pesticides, those things that harm the environment, because we also know that they have a detrimental effect on our microbiome as well, specifically glyphosate and Roundup. And, many of us follow Dr. Zach Bush, who's done amazing research about this subject and helped farming. Thank you. Read all the comments in here, and
I'm zipping through these comments.
Type in your epiphanies.
Very good.
But real quick, what do you see that we can do? I mean, there's certain things that we can control, but to manage the environment around us, are there any things that you recommend to your patients to do or not do?
Well, I mean, yeah, so you're right. There are certain things we can't really control completely. Can't control completely the air that we breathe. I say I try to eat organic as much as possible, and even that isn't perfect, but it's certainly an improvement. Cleaning our water. I'm a fan of whatever you can do to improve the quality of water that you're drinking. We use a molecular hydrogen water, which has some pretty cool effects, antioxidant effects. Anything we can do to improve our gut microbiome, it would be helpful. So that has to just do with the quality of food that we're eating, the number of plants and vegetables that we're eating to create fiber that feeds our microbiota, limiting the impact or the intake of pesticides and herbicides as much as we possibly can, and definitely healthy animals, right? We've got to have grass-fed, well-raised animals to eat, eliminating industrial seed oils as much as possible. I think we could focus on the things that we can't affect too much, or we can focus on the things that we can affect. And I will say sleep hygiene, movement, breath work, loving relationships. These are so much more powerful than we have ever imagined. And we absolutely can control these. And so I just think, I think we have so much impact that will move the needle. It will make a difference. We may not be perfectly healthy, and I think it's probably not even a helpful idea to try to become perfect. Some people actually get somewhat neurotic and are boring, and we don't like to be around them because they're just hyper fixated on things. So I control the things we can control. And I think there's a lot that can be done just by stopping terribly destructive habits. Like if somebody said, what's one thing I can do today to improve my health? Stop drinking soda pop. Stop drinking your sugar calories. Okay, that sort of thing. For the most part, there's big picture things that can be fixed. Can you do 50 push-ups? Can you hang from a bar for a minute? Like if you can't do those things, it might not matter so much about what percentage of your food is carbohydrate, or we can get lost in the weeds and miss a lot of big picture stuff. So that's, as I'm working with people as a coach, I'm trying to help them see what are the big movers, what are the things that are going to dramatically change the impact, and how do we work on those first? Because we can get a huge improvement in health with a few small tweaks. Trying to get the nth degree of improvement in your health once you're at 99%, that's hard. All the low-hanging fruit's already been pulled. So I just think keep it simple, work on the pieces that are easy that we can affect. This is our sleep, it's our movement, it's our it's our breath. All these key pieces of it will change the dynamic tremendously. So
wonderful. Yeah, very good. Very good.
I dropped in the chat, and maybe it was just to you, Jared, just my website, my main website page. If people want access to the Simple 7 Lifestyle book, we'd be happy to send them a copy. I don't charge for it. I just basically charge for shipping. It's like $7. And that's not part of the free gifts. So that's why I wanted to mention it separately. Perfect. So it's just duggarwellness.com, and maybe you can just have somebody pop that into the chat. You're welcome to go there and kind of get on that path to get a book shipped to you.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. And like you said, there are so many analogies between the rest of the messages that we have here and what you presented specifically about the microbiome. And there's been so much of a movement towards understanding what is going on beneath the soil surface now. And
Yeah.
specifically, Ken Hamilton is going to be talking about that later in the presentation. And it's it's a direct comparison. Like in the chats, many people have said, the gut is the ground.
Yeah.
And it's so true, and we can't abuse either one without reaping the consequences of poor health, whether that's poor crop health and animal health or poor health ourselves. And so,
Yep.
yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, again,
Stephen, there's some good questions going on over the chat. I didn't get a chance to answer a lot of them, and that's okay. There's tons of great resources out there. I would just get on this journey. If you know your health needs an upgrade in 2024, as long as you're building a great legacy business, let's have a life that's a legacy. In closing, let me just tell you, my mother finally passed away 2 years ago at 92. And the legacy that she left from her habits and the way she lived her life, it was profound. And my dad was an amazing man, a wonderful man. There's no disrespect whatsoever. But being able to see the impact of those choices, when he passed away 28 years ago, he was full of regret. And he knew that he missed opportunities that he now wanted and he wasn't going to be able to have. So, this idea of sustainable legacy is huge, and working at it at the root level for our health is the right way to do it. So I appreciate this, Jared.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. You played a key part to this, and something that we want to watch over again. I've had a couple of people direct message and ask if they could get copies of your slides. So I don't know if you.
Yeah, you just let me know however I can support you guys. I'll happily share my slides in a PDF format or something. And yeah, absolutely. Just here to help.
Okay, that is wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. And yeah, everybody, virtual round of applause for Dr. Duggar. I think he just did a wonderful job. Great message for this group, Dr. Duggar. Thank you, and may you and your family be blessed.